Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of The Inside. I am Babla Jonathan. Today we are analyzing some key issues connected to the close to a decade-old anglophone conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the country and the decade-old anglophone problem. We are going to share the experience of our guest. She is one of the persons who had first-hand experience of the happenings, the kidnapping, the destruction, abduction going on in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. We are taking you into her experience and also looking at her perspective of the solution to the problem. We are also looking at issues concerning the forthcoming presidential election, notably how to ensure peace before, during, and after the presidential election. And we are also looking at efforts to reduce maternal mortality in Cameroon. Stay with us and meet our guests in a few seconds. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Our guest today is Senator Elizabeth Regina MUNDI. She's a politician, member of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party. She's a member of the Upper House of Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon from the northwest region of the country. Madam the Senator, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your program.
It's a pleasure to see you today, looking so strong, healthy, and of course, beautiful.
Thank you.
Right. At 80, it is grace.
82.
82 now.
Yes.
It is grace, of course.
By grace of God.
All right. So, before we get into the heart of our conversation today, let's get to know a little more about Senator Elizabeth Regina MUNDI. Tell us about your childhood.
Well, I was born in Bamenda, the Bamenda station, and my father was a teacher, a head teacher of the school where I started school in Boo, that's in Menchum Division. I always like to talk about Boo because I have beautiful childhood memories of Boo. Then I went to a secondary school, QRC Okoyong, Queen of the Rosary College. I was a pioneer student. There were 26 of us, pioneer students, and Okoyong, as we call it, QRC, is the first girls' secondary school in the Republic, not only in West Cameroon, but in the Republic of Cameroon. And I went to university in the United States of America, to Trinity University, and I've been a teacher of economics in Casbah, and in Economal Annex in those days. I've taught in several secondary schools. I was appointed economic and social and cultural affairs advisor to the governor of the Northwest region in 1983, and I held that post for 9 years. And then I went on retirement by anticipation. I've been fully involved in political activities, and then I find myself now in the Senate. I think in brief, that is what I can tell you about my life.
You retired from effective service as a teacher, but you didn't retire from serving the nation. That's why you're still a senator till today.
Yes.
Now, take us through your political ascension.
Well,
How did you ascend to this point of prominence?
My political journey has been quite long. I started from the base, right from the base as secretary to the subsection president of Bafut subsection in those days of the CNU. So that's where I started. And from there, as in the subsection, we're dealing directly with the grassroots. Then I moved from the subsection level to being president of MESAM. I was president of MESAM from 1986 to 1996. Grand MESAM at the time, which included Gokutunja. And then from there, I was elected member of the Central Committee and then member of the Political Bureau. of the party. And when it was time for the Senate, I put in my list in 2023. My list did not win. I lost to the SDF. It's competition, so I accepted that loss. And but surprisingly, I was appointed. You know, the president has the option.
Appointing 30?
Yes, so I was one of those appointed, and 3 from each region, so I was one of those 3 appointed. Then in 2018, I was reappointed. No, 2023, I was reappointed. So that is how I've moved up the ranks of the party from the very basic level. In fact, when I lived in Chinga here, I was cell president in Chinga. It was very interesting. As a cell president, you get to know the people individually.
We've been talking about some of the ideas that you've actually penned down in your book, Powered by Hope, 80 Captive Rescued. And we'll proceed to talk about your abduction, or better say, kidnapping, because those who took you into captivity were asking for, I think, 80 million or so. So we'll talk about your kidnapping, your rescue, so to speak. But before that, we go to the newsstands now, and we're taking a look at what the newspapers reported this week. The press review. We begin the press review with the Horizon newspaper. Post of Vice President. If the rumors were true, then those in pole position: former Prime Minister Philemon Yang, Minister of Supreme State Audit Rose Mba-Acha, Interim Minister of Mines Professor Fu Callistus, Deputy Secretary General, the Presidency of the Republic Elung Paul Che, Social Democratic Front National Chairman O.C. Joshua, and the paramount ruler of the Bafors, Fon Mukete IV Ekoko. The National Post, 2025 Presidential, Chiruma breaks Bia Alliance. And the Voice Weekend says Bia Chiruma born rupture materializes with his resignation from government and the declaration of his candidacy for the forthcoming presidential election. And the Guardian Post says after resigning, Chiruma spits fire from Garwa, releases epistle calling for national reawakening and regime change, declares for October poll and insisting time for deception is over. The Post highlights a statement from some elite of the South region. Bia regime has failed miserably in all sectors of national life. The Median, after defections by northern politicians, sons of the South region call on sanctioned vote against Bia. Meantime, Municipal Update tells its readers that President Paul Bia and the popularity of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) in the Grand North has been reinstated by elite. And Cameroon Tribune reports that traditional leaders from the Sawa community known as Mbombok are projecting President Paul Bia for the forthcoming presidential election. Another issue of the Horizon says, ahead of the 2025 presidential election, poll confirms Kamto as Cameroon's third president. Results shared with UN Secretary General and copied to Commonwealth Secretary General, Francophonie Secretary General, European Union, African Union, and President of France. According to the paper, concerning the resolution of the anglophone crisis, another presidential aspirant, Akere Muna, stands out from the pack. Cameroon Tribune talks about the key role of the civil society in ensuring peace before, during, and after the presidential election, and about what Municipal Update qualifies as forgotten horrors of the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions. The paper revisits what it calls Amber Massacre of 34 in Akwaya. The pilot highlights Sir Dr. Ntumfo Barrister Nico Halle's groundbreaking 12-point proposal for the resolution of the Anglophone conflict. And Cameroon Insider reports that Bamenda City roads are set for major overhaul. Another issue of the Guardian Post suggests that President Paul Biya's ambition to make Cameroon a major energy hub in the Central African sub-region has received a fresh impetus with the newly created project company, C-Star. Revisiting Widows' Day, Cameroon Insider takes its readers into Widows' Right, preaching widows' rights. The Voice, Cameroonian American, makes history with multi-specialty health degrees in the USA. Dr. Mary Aqua Choi's remarkable educational journey aims to give back to homeland. Right, you're welcome back. We are still with our guest, Senator Elizabeth Regina MUNDI, member of Cameroon's Upper House of Parliament, member of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, and author of the book, Powered by Hope, 80 Captive Rescued. And the book chronicles the journey of the senator from childhood to rise in prominence, active participation in politics, and kidnap, and that at the age of 18. Now, let's talk about your kidnapping. You were taken into captivity by armed men in the Bamenda. That was on the 30th of April 2022 at Foncha Street in Bamenda. Just take us through that day. How did it happen?
It was just like drama, like some cinema. Oh, well, it was below Foncha, and I was heading to Ngomram, the Catholic Church in Ngomram, and we missed our turn, and we just slowed down, and immediately I saw a bike was speeding. Then before we realized it, the bike man was, in fact, the driver would have gone over the man if he had been on speed. The bike cut in front of us to block any movement, and there were two bike men. Just guns came out, pointing the gun. I say it was so dramatic. You know, it's like kind of thing that you see in a movie. Then the gunman pointed at the gun at the driver and said, "You get out, go to the back of the car. Where are you people from? What are you doing here? You are not supposed to be on this road." So I told the driver, obey, do what he wants, give him the keys. He got into the car. Another one got on this side. I was now squeezed in the middle. Another gunman entered the front. There were two of them. Then they became drivers of the car. They drove the car into the bush. I thought I recognized where we were. As soon as we got into the earth road, they called some other gunmen came. And everything was happening so fast. Really, I just could not take in everything that was happening. That for real, I've been kidnapped. So they gave me the phone. They said, call somebody. We want this much money. And immediately I got the phone. I got hold of the phone. I called my daughter on my phone. Said, we have been kidnapped. And of course, they would not let the phone in my hands for long. They seized the phone. From that point on, really, I was no longer myself to actually see that this was happening. As I say, it's like a movie story, you know. Everything was going so fast. We moved from there to another position. Before I knew it, everything was in my handbag. Of course, everything was gone. They just took everything. Then a helicopter too was flying above, and they thought that the helicopter was looking for us. So we now started running up and down, going through. The driving was going. I recognized that we went by the old road that leads to Naka, that old road that used to go to Bali. When we got to that sand place, because they used to remove a lot of sand there, I recognized that place. Whether we went through Chomba and so on, it was good. Then back to... At one point, I was no longer just afraid of the kidnappers, but I was afraid of an accident because of the way they were driving. The driver, whoever was on the car, was driving. So it was going, we finally got to Guzang. It was market day. The gunmen were in the market. And of course, all these, different groups. One group had gotten us to another group, then another group now took us to Guzang and so on. But before we got to Guzang, I was like, what there could be a head-on collision, because from Bali we were now on the third road, and I was afraid of having a head-on collision with another car because the driver was rough, and he would turn around talking to me and say, "Mommy, I did drive fine, no?" I said, "Yes, my pikin, you did drive very well. But go small, try small." He laughed. He said, "You shall motor fine." So from Guzang now, it was another journey until we got to AY village. And when we got to an entrance to that camp, and the gunman came out and he shouted, "What is your name?" As I gave my name, he commanded us, "Speak louder," and I did. And was a tall boy with rasta. Then he fired a gun by my side, and you had particles, whatever it was. I was just lucky that I did not get my eye. And I said, "Yes, this is the real thing. We are in for it." And from there, it became, at night, I had to write a declaration, which I read. It became, gunmen all over, it turned right, gun. But that was the night until I finally lay myself, put my head down sometime. I can't even remember what time it was. All I know is that it was late. And from that moment, I now realized that, yes, we really are in trouble. And I stayed for 30 days, not knowing whether I'll see the next day. It's on uncertainty. And I did not have any physical torture, but the mental torture. And it looks as though my captors wanted to break me down mentally. When I came out of there, I underwent 12 sessions of psychiatric, orientation. I had to consult, because my mind, in fact, to sit from morning to night with nothing to do. You just sit there watching the birds fly, watching the clouds. It's not an easy exercise.
The journey from Bamenda to where you were held captive must have been very traumatizing.
Yes, it was. It was, because, number one, you're driving through roads that you don't know, you cannot recognize. As I recognized from Bali to Guzang. But how we got to Bali, it appears we went through Mankon, those back roads, those old roads. Then where we were, I had no idea where we had arrived at. I'd never been to that place before, so I had to ask, but where are we? They told me the name of the village. That were AY village. That was the first place I was in. I was in another village in Ashong. Ashong. Then another village after a while, I've forgotten the name of that other village. But I circulated around 3 villages in that place.
So, with all that experience, you said earlier that you now confirm that there is a problem. And I read somewhere that you said there is war. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Tell us about that.
Yes, when I came home, when I came out at the airport, I think the first thing, it just came out of me that there was war, that we were at war because of what I saw. The conditions that were on the ground were really conditions for war. I saw bullets. In fact, bullets. You know how, have you ever seen how people spread cocoa on the mats? That's how I saw bullets on the floor, and they were being parceled, in smaller quantities. There were guns. I saw young boys with guns, long guns, not guns to shoot birds, guns for humans. The big number with whom I was, the ADF general, who was the responsible person for that group faction in the Northwest, he showed me things that they used to they could ignite it from the phone to blow off a car, or to blow off to set ablaze, to activate a bomb.
An explosive device.
Yes, explosive devices. He showed me those things, what his phone could do. He had other elements that he showed me. He showed me so many things. And I didn't think that those things were they were toys. They were not toys. And people were being killed. Even before I was kidnapped, people had been killed. So it was really a war. We were at war. And the Amber boys, they were not just a ragtag army. They were well structured from what I saw. So how those guns got into the country, I don't know. That was a question that was always in my mind. How are we getting in these bullets? And how were these guns coming in? You could see in the neighborhood beautiful homes that have been deserted. In fact, some homes in that area even had satellite installation. So you see how people were building up their residences in the rural areas. All of those abandoned. You see, abandoned farms. Because for the 1 month, I never saw any farmer on the farm. The 1 month I was there. So that's why I said that we were really at war. It was not a joking matter. And you can see that till today. Till today, we are still not at peace.
Did the separatist general tell you why he was showing you all those things?
Well, he didn't tell me why. But
what point did he want to prove to you by showing you all those things?
Well, he knew that I was a part of the government, CPDM. He knew I was CPDM, and that the CPDM party was the party in power. So maybe to let me know that, look, we are not joking. This is what we have. He even went to the extent of telling me that everything that the military has, they have. Every apparatus that the military has, they have. So when you hear that, I'm a lay person. When you hear that, I could not argue with him to say, no, sir, what you are saying that the military, everything the military have, you have, I could not dispute him because he knew what he was talking about.
Did he say anything about how they were acquiring those weapons?
Oh, he told me that he told me that, they have people who bring them to them. But then my problem is, how do those people get by the borders? That is a problem. How do those things get through the borders? Sometimes they came in big trucks. At one time, he was telling about a truck that had come in, and you see, and there's a communication. They allow those trucks to come in. It's a very complicated issue. You see, and in my mind, I had many unanswered questions. When a truck is coming in from Nigeria, and they make apparently the driver calls him and says, "Look, I'm here at this point. I'm carrying cargo." They apparently understood what kind of cargo. But then how does that person from the border, where this truck is, how does that truck come into the northwest region or into the southwest region? Till today, I still have questions in my head. I know that, of course, the border of the northwest is very very porous, and those things can come in by any means.
And that also gives some signs of some loopholes in our security apparatus, security dispositions along the border. That looks like, because, of course, the questions are still unanswered to now. Like, how are those things crossing through right to the point where they are taken to the camps and being used around and so on? We'll not get into that, because, like you said, that's really complex, because we need to do a lot of investigation to be able to see exactly what is happening and who is doing what. Now, throughout the 1 month that you were there, what were they telling you? What did they tell you about the reason for which they kidnapped you? It was just to have the money, the 80 million they were requesting for, or there was another thing, there was another objective that they had in their minds while taking you away?
Actually, I myself had pondered, was it just accidental that I was kidnapped? Because really, to be candid, they showed me kindness. The day I talked with Capo Daniel and the other fellow who is in Ayabacho on a video call. I saw Ayabacho by face, talked. First of all, I talked with Capo Daniel. The line was not good, so we resorted to text messages. And he said they had decided, their council, the highest council, whatever I call that council, I can't remember the name, but they had decided that they had looked into my case and I had committed treason. And the penalty for treason was death. So I told Capo Daniel, your grammar is so high, because treason is not a word that is just commonly thrown around. And that word treason was being used in the medieval ages when kings and queens were involved. Today, in any civilized nation, a person is charged with A, B, and C, but you hardly hear that word treason being floated around. So he said, oh, well, for them, that was my punishment. The punishment for treason is death. Then Ayabacho too, I came on screen and he said there was no way for me to be released. I must pay for my misdeeds. I must pay for my misdeeds of associating with La République. And I have got to make sure that all senators and all people of the National Assembly resign. So when I got back that evening, I asked her, I was very upset, and I asked her a big number. There was a commander judge who actually made that video call possible. I said, but you should have told me that I was going to talk with Capo Daniel, and I am sure. Why didn't you tell me? She said, Mommy, don't worry. No man will shoot you for here. If we want shoot you that very day we step foot for this camp. So for shoot you that day, but I will look you favor my mommy. I said, no. I said, don't worry for that people for that side. They did talk their own thing, but we would do for ground. And we know what they would do. Well, that was consoling. But the big number later on then told me that I had to give them money for 50 guns. And one gun cost 150,000. So for the 50 guns, 75 million. And they had already gotten 5 million. You know, when I moved from one group to the other, they had 150,000 plus the 100,000 that was in my phone. Then to another group now, actually big numbers, please, they had a 5 million because my daughter was running helter-skelter, thinking that by giving that money I would be released. So there we were at this point of guns, and I said, but a big number, you know, say I no go fit get this kind of money we ask and so. Yeah, I said, Mommy, you get plenty big people there for Yaoundé. You know them. Call them and then send you money. Call them and then send money for you. Because we need these guns. So he called his collaborator, who came in, and the two of them. I pleaded, I said, look, I cannot have, there's no way my family can raise this amount of money. I said, when you say I know plenty big people for Yaoundé, now which big man they were going to go call you, say they move 5 million, move 10 million, this and make 75 million, maybe small thing. So the person, they talked, they said, no, there's no way, it must be that amount of money. Then from there, they began talking with my daughter, and she really had the strength. I think at a difficult moment, God strengthens us in ways that we cannot even imagine. Because she was talking with them. Every time they would call her on a video call to talk about this money. Until one day he said to me, he said, Mommy, you know that money no dey come. You did na liability for we here. I said, yes, truly, me I be a liability. Because I don't see what me I do for this place. And you know that I know if you raise that money. So at that point, I said, well, because if I tell my children to go and sell my only house in Bamenda, so my kids will be hanging in the air.
Let's talk about your rescue. You said it was miraculous. Definitely, you're saying that you didn't pay the money that they requested for 75 or 80 million or so, but you were rescued by the defense and security forces. How did that happen?
Yes, you see, the bee had been sent out for me from Yaoundé here. And those boys, actually, they were in the bush, trekking for about 2 weeks, because it was difficult to find my location. So when they finally had a good idea of where I was, now the whole thing was to get to that location and to get me out safely. So on this day, first of all, on a Sunday, whether it was a Saturday or a Sunday, on the 29th, big number, I was in one of his residences. And he had told me that he was going on mission and he will be out for some time. I said, okay, my Pekin, okay, fine. So in the morning, the guards, the armed fighters, there were 3 of them in that residence. One of them was Big Number's brother. I didn't get to know that one because he just came there. But there were the 2 who were with me. I knew I had been seeing them. They were around. One of them was my special guard. So a drone was flying over that building. And there were 2 of those boys outside. And one almost shot the drone. Another one withheld him, said, don't do that. But we had to leave. So immediately we left. And immediately, of course, I went to bed with everything, everything that I own on me. So it wasn't like getting to pack anything. We left and we started running. So later I asked, I said, but they said, Mami, we see that drone. So if he be shoot down, then they for no say we're there for that place. And the figure blew up this building. So we started running. I was running with them. And just to tell you what had happened before on 2 or 3 other occasions, when they heard that the military was around, the camp would be mobilized in a very short time and will run up the hills and spend the night in the Fulani huts up the hills. I didn't know that Widikum was, Batiba was a very hilly area. So,
What was that? You were running along with them?
Yes. They took me along. If I knew nobody, no place, if they had even left me there, what would I have done? So I ran with them. It was not easy. I don't know. God gave me the strength to climb those hills. So on this particular day, when we now left this building, since they had seen that drone, you know, the boy who was the brother to Big Number had taken the only bike and disappeared with it. So these other 2 boys and I now were running, avoiding the road because they said the military will be on the road. So we now were running into the bush, running, climbing, going down valleys, hills, until we got to some points, some hill. It was a day. Did you see? I had to put these things down because now, even as you can see, as talking to you, I can no longer follow the sequence. So if I had not put these points down, in another 2 years now, I might begin to mix up things. But in the book, I gave the whole story of what actually happened. When we now got to a certain point, it was late, getting late in the evening. We are, looking for a place to rest. It was a long trek from 6 in the morning. So when we got to this house, the house was locked. Of course, it had been abandoned. They used their gun to break the door. Then we got in, they swept the floor. Actually, even looked for something in there. They saw some foam mattress. They put it on the floor. Said, Mama, you rest here. They made a big fire. Oh boy, was I happy to see that fire and to sit down. Oh, that joy was short-lived. One of them had gone out to look for food for us. And before long, he ran back and said, the military is around. We must leave that place. And I heard a military go. I think the military spotted him. Then they fired. They go around with long guns. So it's very easy to know Amber in that area. And we started running again. We ran now into the forest. I was wearing a plastic shoe, plastic slippers, which was now wet, so my feet kept sliding. I couldn't move. I just slipped down on my buttocks, jammed a certain tree, and my head was spinning. My special guard was limping, but he had been injured twice by the military. So he couldn't run as fast as the other one. The other one had gone. So I looked at that boy. I said, no. His name was Kingsley. I said, Kingsley, you better run. I felt that, if the military saw him, they could shoot him. I said, you better run. So he came to me and said, Mama, you trust God now? I said, yes, King. He said, okay, Mama, I will leave you here. If military see you, it will be better for you. Then he went. In that place now, my head was turning in circles. So when I left there, I got up. I said, Lord, I cannot spend the night in the forest. I know you are with me, but you have to get me out of here. Then soon I felt some strength and I found my way out. And when I got to that house, when you move in the bush, you can leave a trail. I followed that very trail that we took down. Then I saw that door. The fire was still in there, but the fire had burned. I picked up a bag which had a Bible which they had given me, because I begged for a Bible and they did give me a Bible, and I brought it out with me. I still have that Bible here as a souvenir. So I took that Bible and 2 exercise books that I had. In one of them, I had been writing events of the day. They gave me that book about 1 week or so after I was in the book. The one I was writing my will, and I told my special girl, who was a girl, a lady too, I said, if anything happens to me here, please make sure my children get these 2 exercise books. And she goes like, yeah, Mama, I'm not going to do it for here. Yeah. I said, well, I feel sick. He said, if you're sick, we'll take you to the hospital. So anything you want to do, may you talk. So now I was now alone. I didn't know where I was. No phone, no money, nothing. So I saw that. I said, should I go and sleep in that house? Somebody said, but you can't. You can't go and sleep there alone. I left the place, walked in a village footpath, very narrow. This is why I think that everything was very mysterious, because the house that I went into, that house could have been a hostile house. But it wasn't. It turned out the people were very, very welcoming. A lady came in from nowhere, I don't know where she came from, and started finding out ways of helping me. She went and brought her mother-in-law, and soon they said, oh, Mommy, we don't talk with some people in the military, don't talk to the military. Military will find you, and we don't tell them which side we'll go meet. It was now dark. And when we walked to where they said the military was to meet us, that lady, they had their touch on their phone on throughout. When the military came, so they met at that point. And the man leading the bill, he said to me, he said he gave his name, his Lieutenant Tatanta from La République, President of La République de Cameroon. I said, what? I almost passed out. Somebody held me in my head. President of La République de Cameroon, inside this bush, to look for Regina MUNDI. Those women handed me, and one of the women had a baby on her back. In the dark, I said, but if it started raining, what will happen to this baby? Fortunately, that baby was sleeping like, So they handed me to the military. I had injured my ankle, which still hurts me till today, even though I really had physiotherapy. I could not walk. One of them would carry me on the back, and we got to the military camp at 1 a.m. So we had been moving from 6 in the morning to 1 a.m. The military people there, they were very excited. This boy carried me. This leg, I was bleeding at the top of my leg here, foot here. This side was, they gave me some injection. I saw some other people there who had also been rescued. There was a lady amongst in that camp, believe me. So what amazes me till today is that the military had not received a call from anybody telling them that we should meet at point X. You get it? So who was it that this woman was talking about? They have called somebody with whom they have talked, and they have said, we shall meet at this point. So they hurried me that let us go quickly. The military will come and meet us at this point to take you. But the military never got any such information. And that area, to getting telephone calls was not an easy one inside the bush. So from there, how did this happen? That is the mystery about it all. Where I say, yes, God simply used these people to rescue me. No, they never got, they were just searching in the bush, just going around that night to see if they could have any, just searching. In fact, at one point they were almost giving up. But the leader said, something kept telling him that continue. You see, that is where I think that I am convinced that the prayers that people were giving for me, God heard those prayers and answered. But too many things. It was not just coincidence. Number one, I would have gone into the house of an Amber person. They would have just called him, look for his other people and say, hey, she's here. Or, the woman that you people took, she's right here. Or done whatever he wanted to do.
You have documented all of these and more in the book Powered by Hope. And when you look at the fact that you were kidnapped at the age of 80 and you had to run through valleys, down to valleys, up to the hills, trekking for several hours. It's like she's that strong to be running down the valley, running up the hill, and all of that in the bush and all the trauma. How were you able to put all of this together? Because someone else in this kind of situation may have emotional breakdown, physical breakdown, and a lot of things could just happen in the midst of all of that.
Yes, it was not easy. But I can tell you without any doubt in my mind that I was not going on my own strength. I was strengthened by some forces beyond my control. And I can tell you that God answered the prayers of those who were praying for me. And within me, I had surrendered. I surrendered my life. Because one of the things where from the title of this book, Powered by Hope, yes, I was hoping, I kept hoping that I would be released. I kept hoping that I would be rescued. I kept hoping that something would happen, that I would see my children again, that I would get back to my home. So I did not lose hope. But that hope, I had one hope, that God will hear the cry of the people who were raising up their voices for me. Because there was a day when my daughter, I talked with her, and she said, I told her, I said, but I don't know how I'm ever going to get out of this place. And she said, Mama, don't lean on your own understanding. We should not lean on our own understanding. There's a Bible verse so that you don't lean on your own understanding, you lean on God. Don't lean on your own understanding. And from that moment, and then she said, many people are praying for you. I was encouraged from that moment. And I never gave up hope. And I said, okay, if I have to die in here, then that is the way God wanted it. And you see, you've said something. People can get discouraged mentally, emotionally, and all that. And this is why many people who are captured, you see, die. And we don't even know all the people who have died in this whole affair. Or even they can come home and die later, and die a few weeks, 1 or 2 weeks afterwards. They will not count them again as victims of Amber. But the principal cause of their death was their capture.
So, in a nutshell, in whatever situation, because there are other people too who may not necessarily be in the captivity of armed men or whatever, but in captivity of issues of life, the troubles of life, the difficulties of life. But what we can deduce from your story is that you should never lose hope. You should never allow hope to depart from you. And then secondly, you should lean on God, who understands and knows better.
Yes, exactly. You are very right. We must never lose hope. People are psychologically captives, especially today. There's so much going on that people are afraid of their own, even to step out of their houses. They are afraid. You know, there's so much trauma. People have abandoned their homes. Look at, we have IDPs. Oh, but they must still have hope. And we must not let anybody seize this element from us. Hope is not a passive thing. Hope is a positive force in our lives. And as long as we remain hopeful and trusting in God, we can surpass any difficulty. Those difficulties will be there. But we have to believe and trust that God is working with us through those difficulties, and He will bring us to a safe landing. So, hope, no. We must continue to have hope in the future, hope in a better life, hope in our children, in our grandchildren.
Let me open a little bracket for you to have your comments on the issue of IDPs who have been practically abandoned to themselves all over the country, in Douala and Yaoundé and everywhere. Young girls have gotten into some unorthodox practices, young men as well, and children really living in precarious conditions, but nobody seems to care about them.
No, I will not really say that nobody cares. The thing is that the magnitude of the situation is gigantic. And having gone through this experience, I have asked myself, and I talked with some of those boys in the bushes, do we really need to go to put our people through this kind of hardship to prove a point? Yes, the Anglophones had problems, and our problems are not yet completely resolved. But do we need to go through this kind of suffering? Papa, as a teacher, when I look at the consequences of children not having been to school for 9 years, you project into the future. You see that it's devastating. It is devastating. We might get to a certain point where our region will have to import people. Because these days, whom are you going to employ that cannot read and write anything? Where would they work? Even in the farms now, we're talking about digitalization for farm work. So I would not think that the IDPs are completely left to themselves. It is a very unfortunate situation. But not too long ago, the Northwest CPDM elites went to Fumban to see the IDPs who were there. And in Fumbot, no, they went to Fumban. They have not yet been to Fumbot. And here in Yaoundé, they have been trying to do something for the IDPs, especially those ones who came here and they are selling along the road. But unfortunately, some of them are afraid. They think that it's a way of reporting them or arresting them. Or so they say, why would they want to arrest you? Even those of them who have even left the bushes and have come into town. But, you know, with the reconstruction now of the region, which has started, those factors are being, will be taken care of. As I say, it is such a huge problem. Take the girls, and it makes my heart to bleed, because you find any girl now who is 22, she has already had 2 children, but she's not gone to school. So my question is, how is this girl now with no education ever going to be able to raise these 2 children? And she might have more. So it means that immediately the crisis started, young people just went wild for idleness, because that is what pushed them to that level. But again, this is where the social services would have to step up their activities to be able to retrain and to rehabilitate all these young people. But I can assure you that those steps are underway. It will be slow because of the numbers involved. And we only have to pray that the people who are perpetuating this situation would understand that we are doing ourselves, our own people, so much harm. It is painful.
Earlier you said that we were at war, and you said on the 20th, 30th of May, yes, when you were released, that we are at war. And now today you said we were at war. Does that mean that there's a change in the situation on the ground? You're just coming from Bamenda. Those kidnappings are still going on, abductions still going on, destruction still going on, killings still going on. What's your perspective of the current situation? Are we still in that war-like situation?
Well, some people say that the situation is getting better than it was 2 years ago. But I look at it in a different light. Until the kidnappings will stop, until people will be able to go to the market and move around without looking behind, until ghost towns will end, then can I say that the situation is better, until all schools will be reopened. Because now we still have thousands of children who are not going to school. We still have people who cannot safely open their businesses. We still have taxi men, bike riders who are afraid. You know, you cannot find a conscientious bike man now in Bamenda after 7 o'clock. A taxi man too, they're afraid to go to some quarters. Is that the kind of way that we should live? If we are expecting growth, we're expecting progress, should people become prisoners in their own homes? So to me, even though the situation might have slightly improved, it is still not the best. These kidnappings must stop. People say that those people who are kidnapping now are thieves. Well, but if they are thieves, why are they thieves? Can't they do something useful? Must they put their own brothers and sisters at risk just because they want to put money in their own pockets? Because all the kidnapping that is going on now, how is it advancing the anglophone case? All these kidnappings is just making us to look like people who have no reasoning. We are destroying ourselves. We have destroyed our own properties, destroyed our own people. So those who are perpetuating it will have to see and understand that the harm they have caused already is enough. You see, I'm just one voice now of the those who were kidnapped. There are many cases of people who were kidnapped, tortured, and if you hear their stories, but I would wonder, when people hear one story, they should understand that behind that story there are thousands of other stories of people who have suffered and many people who have died, not so much in the hands of those kidnappers, but because of the stress and the trauma. Families have suffered. You kidnap a man, his wife and children are suffering. Some of them die. You have a chain reaction of events. So that this story here should let our people know that we cannot be fighting ourselves. And fighting, killings, kidnapping is not going to resolve the anglophone issue. It's only making us look like people who don't even know where we are going to.
So, the Senator, let's look into the solution. Government has been doing a number of things on the ground, beginning from the major national dialogue right up to the implementation of their recommendations, but the situation has continued persisting. From the position of a senior citizen, looking at the situation on ground, what more should be done to maybe meet the aspirations of the people?
Well, I talked with some of the children in the bush there. Some of them said, "Oh, they want an industrialized." Because some of them said, "Mama, you see this hill like that, Grandma, we want to see industries here." What industries? Oh, tomatoes, potatoes. Yes, but we didn't need to kill ourselves to have industries. So in this child's mind, he wants to see an industrialized nation. It is possible. Is it possible to have this kind of dream come true in the situation of in a warring situation? No. So if what we have to do now is to create industries. And who creates industries? The government has put down the ground rules for creating industries, for creating companies, creating firms. We need to have investors, because unemployment is one of our main problems with the youths. The youths want to be employed, and right now many of them who have not been to school are facing a very higher risk of being victims of anything. Anything can divert them. So we have to create a situation where many investors come to our regions, to these two battered regions, create more jobs. Because you can only create jobs through investments.
And that can only be possible when the environment is conducive.
Yes, and can only possible in the environment. So if we continue fighting, and so investors are not going to come, certainly. Nobody wants to come. If you saw a caterpillar that was burnt along the Bunda Bamenda road there, that caterpillar is still there now. You don't want to have your caterpillar destroyed. You don't want to have trucks burned down. So we must create a conducive atmosphere for investors to come. And we have opportunities in the Northwest for investors to come. But it cannot come when we are at this stage where we are. So let the people who are encouraging these boys step back and see whether the options that they took were the best options for the region, for the Northwest and the Southwest region.
You've also been talking about the autonomy, some level of autonomy for those two regions. What about that?
Well, now we have, following up from the national,
the major national
dialogue, as you mentioned, we now have the regional setup. Decentralization is a reality now. The regions, some ministries have already given the regions the financial capacity and the know-how to carry on their own activities. Let us use what we have been given.
Let's talk about the proceeds of your book, Powered by Hope. You want to direct that, or you're directing that to fighting to mitigate or reduce maternal mortality in Cameroon. Tell us about that.
Yes, you see, maternal mortality is the death when a woman dies, pregnancy-related deaths. Up to 42 days after birth, if a woman dies, of course, not if she has a motor accident, that's a different thing, but you know, those kind of deaths that a woman could have, those are maternal deaths. And in this country, right now, the figure is about 402 deaths per 10,000 live births. It is still too high. Government is trying to reduce it by 2030 to 70. 2030 is not, 2035 is not far from now, to go from 400 and something to 70. There are causes of maternal death that can be prevented. And these causes, many of them are caused by factors in society. For instance, women having too many deliveries because they must have a boy child to succeed, abortions done in illegal places, people not going to proper health centers, and so on, poor nutrition, all these factors.
No antenatal follow-up during pregnancy.
No antenatal follow-up. Now, we cannot at this point in time, 2025, accept that children should not know their mothers. It's a pity that any child born today will lose the mother. Medical advances have taken place, have gone so far. I got interested in this exercise because there were two cases in my own family where I lost two of my aunts. One of them had a heart condition. She was advised not to. She had the first pregnancy and delivered. The doctor advised her, don't have another child. She still went ahead and got pregnant. Of course, at 4 months pregnancy, she died. That was a maternal death. Then there was one who died because she did not have any maternal antenatal care. And when my mother tells me about those stories, I get very discouraged because she paints, I'll see this, my beautiful auntie, that she was tall, dark in complexion, real ebony black, and then to die like that, Then I've seen other cases where people have died, young people have died from abortions. So everybody can come on board. And when I was in the bush, I saw a monkey. The boys brought home a monkey that was clinging to the corpse of his dead mother, and they brought it home. So I said to myself, look, this is what will happen. For a child is born, the mother dies, that baby is crying there, and nobody, no mother's arm to hold that child. So you see, so that's why I'm devoting the proceeds from this book to that cause. And my association is called Safe Motherhood Association Cameroon. So anybody who buys the book or who just reads the book I'm inviting them to come on as partners for us to see about those things in our tradition that make women to have these problems. If you're a grandmother, are you concerned about your granddaughter or your granddaughter-in-law who is pregnant? Have you given them 6,000 francs under the Universal Health Care Program? A woman needs 6,000 francs to register in a health institution, and that 6,000 francs can take her right through to delivery. If she needs echo, the 6,000 francs covers it. If she needs a cesarean section, the 6,000 francs cover it. But you must first of all register in an institution, in a health institution for your antenatals. Don't wait until the last minute. We need a lot of sensitization. Women die because of lack of knowledge that they don't wait. It is not a pride to wait until the last minute to go register. If there were any problems, the nurses, the midwives would detect that early enough. Taxi men, Okada riders, they all should get involved. A taxi man, are you prepared to carry a woman to the birthing place? A bag rider, can you help? You know, you people are in Njangi, and there are women who are still giving birth. Instead of keeping money for trouble bank, you know, when the woman dies, then money comes out. Have you there seen to it that your members of that Njangi group who are pregnant are registered from maybe the second month, from the minute you know that? Have you asked them, boy, you don't register, you don't go for antenatal? The men, are you taking care of your wife when she's pregnant? Or the woman, are you only waiting for your husband? So we also want the women should empower themselves, you know. Then all these young girls that who are pregnant now because of the situation we have at hand, you know, is anybody following them up? They should not be afraid. What has happened, if a girl gets pregnant out of wedlock, it is not the end of the world. Let mothers understand that where that situation happens, they have to show love and concern for such girls and make sure that they have the antenatal follow-up and have a safe delivery, you see.
And not push them away into,
yes, and not push them away.
Kind of difficult conditions, and probably in some cases to abortion that could lead to death and all of that.
And abortion is the worst thing that takes the lives of girls. They go to very clandestine places, and somebody induces bleeding. And for some of them, by the time they get to a health center now or a hospital, it's too late. They might have bled to death, or the situation, or their bodies must have been totally destroyed. So that is why I'm calling everybody to come on board, to look into this matter of women dying during childbirth or immediately after childbirth. It is a very sad situation, and all of us can do something. We can do something. It is not only the government that can do it. The government cannot go and pull somebody from her house to go and register. Government is saying, go and register with 6,000 francs, and we'll take care of you right through.
So everyone is called to come on board. Everyone is called to put hands on deck. Get a copy of the book Powered by Hope. You're contributing to reduce maternal mortality. Do the needful to help a woman, to help a young woman in situations of difficulty with regards to pregnancy, and it will go a long way to help reduce the phenomenon of maternal mortality in Cameroon. Let's take some interviews now. When we come back, we'll take a quick look at issues concerning the presidential elections. Stay with us.
He always makes us know that His Excellency President Paul Biya is the #1 personality and the best thing that have ever happened to Cameroonians. That's why his political party was always in support of the CBDM party. Today, for him to declare his candidacy, I see it as a well-calculated game from this regime to distract Cameroonians not to vote that personality that will bring change in this country. They want to use that policy in which Cameroonians will divide their vote to many opposition party that will make it difficult for us to have the expected result we want. Minister Issa Chiroma, if he can be serious with Cameroonians as an opposition leader, he will rather join an existing opposition party, maybe as a second or third personality, not running as a presidential candidate.
No, it cannot be a strategy of the CPDM, because if Issa Chiroma is resigning, it gives a bad image with respect to the alliance that he had with the ruling CPDM. Because if something is good, then you will not back out from it. It portrays something is not well, something is not going on well. Things are probably no longer moving. So it doesn't appear to be a trick or a strategy of the ruling CPDM.
You're welcome back. Senator, the presidential election should be coming up by October, and there are a lot of tensions in the air, a lot of things being said here and there, and so on. From the position of a senator, from the position of a senior citizen, what is your perspective of these elections? How should we go about it, especially to ensure that before, during, and after the elections, we still have the nation Cameroon? Though there are some issues here and there, and it may be said that we are not really at peace, so to speak, but we can move around, we can do one or two things, except for the situation in the crisis-stricken regions. So I'm talking about how to ensure that we don't have chaos, either before, during, or after the presidential election.
Okay, well, you see, we've got to understand, first of all, that Cameroon is a land of law and order. It is our country. And elections will always come at different levels, starting even from the village council. We have elections there, to the municipal councils, National Assembly, Senate, Regional Assembly, presidential elections. But what we have got to understand is that we follow the laws that have been put down. And in this country, the presidential elections is a universal election, one man, one vote. If you are not registered, you cannot vote. So you see people are struggling now to get the identity cards to vote, to register and all of that. When people register on election day, we go to the polling stations and we drop our votes. And by law, every political party is represented at the polling station. It is what the law says. So that as it stands, when we vote and we are given the results, we should be ready to abide by the results. Democracy in this country has gone a long way. So we should not push our democratic process backwards. We are improving, we should be improving on our democratic process every year. Every time we have elections, we should become better. And Cameroonians will understand that this is our only nation. We are not going to run into Nigeria and become Nigerians. We are not going to go to Chad. We will remain in Cameroon. And it is our duty to fix our own country. Everybody will fix your own house. So when we go to vote, it is secret ballot. Drop your vote and you go your home. What happens when the results comes out? Of course, in an exam, not everybody can be first. The winner, we accept the results. And together now, we join hands to now work for a better Cameroon, improve our country this way or that way. You see, the head of state is for the whole nation, not for one political party. And that is where we as Cameroonians should understand that before the elections, if we do actions that would disrupt the elections, it will not be for our own interest. I've listened to some interviews and so on, where people are already, trying to make people feel otherwise, trying to make people feel that it's not a war. We are not going to war. We don't fight. This is not a war now where we are using machetes and cutlasses and guns. It's by the ballot paper. And everybody, please register and come out to vote. See, so where we should be prepared to accept the results of the votes and know that it is our nation. We are the ones who fix our nation. Let nobody deceive us that some foreigners are going to come here and fix Cameroon for us. No, foreigners will have their own interest in Cameroon. And we are the ones who say, no, this is where we stand. This is how we're fixing our country. So this is
also the responsibility of the election organizing institutions the responsibility of the elections organizing institutions to ensure that, the election organizing institution, Elections Cameroon, and other authorities, other stakeholders, to ensure that the result reflects the aspirations of the people, reflects the vote of the people, so that there shouldn't be room for chaos. There shouldn't be room for violence and all of that.
Yes, there should be. And Cameroonians too should have in their minds that there's not going to be any violence. Because, if in some people's heads you already see that, we are going to fight, we are going to do this, we are going to do that. So those people are going to cause violence, whatever happens. They just want to have violence. No, we're stressing here that a LECAM should do its job in a clean and clear manner, so that at the end of the day, we can see that so many votes came out of here, so many votes came out of here for party A, for party B, and for party C. So that a LECAM's job should be clean and clear. Then people now should be satisfied
with the proclamation of the Constitutional Council. Right. So there have been advice on Cameroonians to vote wisely, to vote for solution, to vote for someone who will bring the solution to the multiple socio-economic, political, and security problems affecting the nation. What's your advice to Cameroonians concerning their votes, concerning their civic duty?
Well, every Cameroonian has a right to vote. And there is no upper limit for the voting age. There is a lower limit. So everybody, young and old, or the old elderly, if you're a young man, take your grandmother who cannot walk to the polling station to drop her vote. And of course, when we are voting, we have in our own hearts, we know why we are voting candidate X or candidate B. But we should always also bear in mind that there is no utopian society in this world. None. So as you go to vote, expecting that your candidate will meet your aspirations, don't imagine that if your own aspirations are not met, you have to cause chaos. No. We have our different aspirations. Different groups of people have their different aspirations. And all we are praying is that do not let your own aspirations be forced down the throat of other people. That is why the democratic process calls for for ballot papers to be dropped, secret ballots. So you don't know what I'm voting for. You don't know whom I'm voting for. We might come from the same house, but we might have our own different aspirations. So the majority of the people will vote for whoever they think will meet their aspirations. If the so what, it is a ballot box that will determine the results. People should not determine the results ahead of time.
The ballot box should do so.
Yes, the ballot box should do so.
Right.
That is why we have the trouble of going through the ballot box.
Thank you very much, Senator, for your time and for the insights you've shared with us in this edition of the program.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being a guest on your program.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also follow the rebroadcast of the program on Friday at 5 p.m. Thank you so much for staying with us. God bless Cameroon. Goodbye.